Hey, Raphael, would you like to just go ahead and start and give a little introduction about who you are and some of your projects? Because some of the projects you're working on right now sound quite interesting. While I'm just
For
sending a
sure.
message to Geraldine.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. Well, hello everyone in the group that joined. I'm super excited to share with you guys today. My name is Rafael Lugo. I am a musician and entertainer in music and a little bit of podcasting as well. I'm starting to get back into it. And I've have had an extensive extraterrestrial experiences since about the age of 5. Some of the races that I have communicated with unwillingly and willingly on some occasions. And I want to preface this before anything. Every interaction I have had personally has either been in some sort of kind of hazy hypnotic state or in physical manifestation. Like for instance, I had an interaction with a mantis being that appeared physically in the room, but did not allow me to kind of look at it. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. And young in my younger years, I dealt a lot with the grays and stuff like that. I like to talk about my experiences because now at the age of 40, I've realized that in me sharing my story, I'm able to help a lot of other people. I used to just kind of solely just put all of my stories into my music. My rap name is called Skits the PLK, PLK standing for Poetic Lucid King, and Prophet Lucid King at times as well. And the skits is pretty much kind of like the multiple personalities that I would have when I'm recording music. You might hear me doing a rock song one day and then all of a sudden hear me doing another song. Long story short, I take a lot of my experiences and the stuff that I've learned and I apply it to entertainment because I feel like the way the music industry is going right now is solely negative. And I have like found a way to like kind of tap dance the line to where I don't even have to curse in a record, but still kind of make it mainstream. So I'm trying to make that a little bit more popular so that way people can have a lot more knowledge about our family from the stars. And then as far as some projects that I got coming up, I'm working with a producer over at Gaia for a project about pretty much is a docu-series about other experiences, but I'm episode 1, and we pretty much speak about the whole story from like the age of 5, 6, and all the extraterrestrial experiences. How it was kind of hard for me to deal with those experiences due to the religious background that my family had. It's not always easy to like explain what's happening to you because sometimes people usually just key it to like it's negative or it's demonic. So it was really hard being raised in a very highly religious family and then having to deal with these experiences. And then through reaching out to communities like this one and others, I realized that there was a lot more people out there like me. And then I found a way to transmute the pain into art, which allowed me to find out that a lot of my experiences was mostly positive. So that was in a nutshell. That's pretty much what I got
Thank
going
you.
on.
Thank you, Raphael. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
And
Welcome.
um, Raphael might have to leave this session a little early today because of other commitments. So it's good that we can hear a little bit from him up front. Geraldine is having technical issues, but she is trying to join us right now through various devices. So hopefully she will be with us. I'm going to get started with this session. And first of all, I want to just say a little bit about Global CE5, what Global CE5 is. We are a network of about 70 CE5 groups around the world. What is CE5? This is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. This is Human-Initiated Contact. Now, what I'm going to do is just quickly share my screen with you and just show you three websites that you might be interested in joining. If you're not in our main Global CE5 group right now on Facebook, then I recommend that you go ahead and join that. Geraldine is joining us. If you're in a US state, then you can use this middle Earl or address here and simply substitute instead of the Kansas, substitute in whatever state that you are in. We have a group in every US state, so you're welcome to join our local group if you like. If anybody's interested, I have just set up a group which I'm calling Alien Abductions CE4. And the web address is there if anybody's interested in joining that. I would like that to be a safe space for anybody who's had any of these sorts of experiences, because this group is all about helping people. If you didn't have enough time to write down those addresses, then please just send me a private message after this session. I will be happy to share with you any links at all that I share during this session, and indeed any links that any of our guests share during this session. Still talking about this group for just another minute. Global CE5 is a very morally focused group, a very morally focused network. We have a very clearly worked out moral philosophy. Our vision is universal peace, universal love, and universal happiness. That's at the foundation, the core of everything we're trying to do. While accepting and recognizing that there are negative things happening in the world around us and in the universe, we are always respectful, polite, considerate. That is who we are. And if you look down our web pages, you will see nothing but positive, loving, friendly comments. If you do ever see any posts or comments, or you receive any messages from anybody that are contrary to that bright, loving, light philosophy, please just let us know and maybe report that comment to me or to Facebook, and we will remove those comments. We want this network to be a safe space for you. Unfortunately, when we do remove people from our group for being disrespectful, they do often come back and attack us. And so I think this group, this network, is probably attacked a little bit more than others. But that's the price we pay for maintaining a loving family within this space. Let's see, I'm just going to make sure everybody's muted while I continue. I'm going to get on to talking to our guests and introducing our guests very soon, but I just want to give a short introduction about CE5. A lot of people who are in this group, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind group, are going out trying to make contact with these beings. And inevitably, the question is going to come up, is it safe to do that? So I'm going to tell you my opinion. And I'm going to tell you that, yes, CE5 is a very safe activity to be doing. I've been doing this my whole life, and I've never had any bad experience with aliens. I've had lots of bad experiences with humans, but that's when it becomes a little bit less safe. You don't want to be going out into the middle of an isolated, dark area at nighttime with people who might not be very moral. You do have to be careful. But reaching out to aliens, we've never had any problems. Part of the reason for that is when we're meditating and reaching out to them, we are preparing ourselves by filling ourselves with love and light. And then we are targeting, when we remote view to them, a very specific kind of positive being. And there are various different ways of ensuring that we remain safe. So anybody that's ever been to any of my CE5 events, you'll know they're very bright, positive, loving events. However, there are countless different species of alien beings throughout the universe. And some of them are going to be friendly, some of them are going to be aggressive. Some of the beings that are around the Earth Many of them are benevolent and wise. Some of them do things to people that they have not sought permission to do from those people. And it's that category of event really that we're going to be looking at today. So if you're all excited about the love and the brightness of doing CE5, and you're coming in here today and you're hearing some stories from people about them being abducted, I would like you to, I'm hoping that you can put this into context, that there are also lots and lots, the majority of experiences are positive. This event is focusing on experiences which we're classing as abductions. People who have these experiences may be called abductees or experiencers, or contactees. And that is what this event is about. So we have with us today, I've seen that we have 3 of our guests today, very special guests, all of whom I've talked to. I know a couple of you extremely well, and I'm psychic. I have a sense for who people are, and each of the people we're just about to talk to today are wonderful people, wonderful, bright, loving people. And I feel very privileged to have them with us today. I'm going to introduce them to you in a minute, and I'm going to ask them a series of questions. Before I do that, I'm going to ask everybody to keep a few things in mind. I would like to encourage you to listen to everything they have to say with a very open mind. I'm going to tell you up front that I know these people well enough, and my psychic sense is strong enough with these people to know that they're not going to be lying to you. They are telling you, they're going to tell you real experiences that they've had. Now, that's a judgment I've made. You have to make your own judgment. But I would like people to have an open mind on this, rather than just anybody coming in and assuming that they're trying to deceive you. Having said that, I would like people to, I encourage people to understand that there's a difference between an experience that you may have had and what your interpretation of that experience is. And everybody who has experiences, real experiences, interprets them in different ways. It's true to say that different experiences or abductees have different interpretations of their experiences from each other. And so it's always wise to, keep a little bit of critical thinking going on. And indeed, this group has a whole column in our CE5 wisdom system on trying to ascertain what is true and what isn't. How do we interpret things correctly, as opposed to making incorrect deductions? So I'm just going to ask everybody just to maintain an open and wise and thoughtful frame of mind when we do this. So let's see. I know we have 3 of our guests with us. I'm not sure if we have the 4th yet, but I am going to say hello to Raphael. You're with us. I can see you. Hello. Thank you for being here. Is Geraldine now with us?
Good morning. Yes, I am. I'm going to hook up my computer and I'll be with you shortly.
Fantastic.
So, yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Is Jean with us today? Hello, Jean.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Now, I spoke with Jean yesterday on the phone, and she does have internet difficulties right now. She's going to get those internet issues fixed tomorrow, but today she may be having a little bit of difficulty. Jean, would you mind maybe in about a minute giving us a summary of who you are? If it's easy, I don't know if it's possible in a minute to do this, but just explain who you are, your experiences, how you come to be here today.
Yes, I taught middle school science for about 20 years, so I'm a science teacher. I retired and I found MUFON, which is Mutual UFO Network. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. I am now section director for Kansas City. I'm also a STAR team investigator for MUFON. And in finding them, I began to put together a lot of things that had haunted me my entire past of growing up. From the crib, they chose me from the crib on to be a hybrid mother, and they took 4 of my babies. And I've written a book about this called Family Secrets. And I'm writing a new book right now. I'm almost done with it, and it's on some of the best UFO cases that I've investigated.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jean. And we're going to come back to all of our guests for a sequence of questions that I'm going to ask. Geraldine, are you in a situation where you might be able to introduce yourself to us?
Sorry, Rupert. Would you give me just a minute? Maybe go to the next person. I'll be available right after. Yeah,
Absolutely, yes.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start asking some questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that our guests try to limit themselves to just answering the questions and not going off on too much of a tangent. There will be plenty of opportunity to say everything you want to say, but I'm going to try and keep the pace of the questions coming fairly quickly. And towards the end of this event, I'm going to give all of the other attendees, an opportunity to ask any of our guests or myself any questions that you have. So question number 1 was simply to introduce yourself. I've asked that already. I'm going to ask the question to all of our guests to please tell us about the first time that you realized you were having one or more encounters with intelligent non-human entities. Could you please describe the experience, the first experience you had, that realization moment, and maybe describe the entities involved in that specific experience? I'm going to start with Raphael.
Sure, 100%. So the first experience that I can remember would be an experience I had when I was in bed. I was sleeping. I was about a child, about the age of 5, maybe 6. And I'm just going to be completely honest. And I had a twin size bed inside of my parents' bedroom due to the fact that I was always so terrified of sleeping alone. I never really knew why. I never had a reason to be terrified, but because of my experience in the next coming years, I would grow to know why. So in this occasion, it was a normal night. I was sleeping. It was the middle of the night. I get this urge that something's staring at me. I get this compulsion that when I'm sleeping to wiggle my toes, because I feel like if I could wiggle my toes, I could move my hands. And if I could move my hands, I could run, or I could move around, I could hit whatever's near me. I don't know why I've had this instinct, but it was almost like I've always had it. I always knew to do this. And in this particular situation, I wasn't able to move my toes. So I knew when I opened my eyes, I was going to see something that was going to terrify me at the time. So I opened my eyes, and at the foot of my bed, it would be the traditional gray that you would see everywhere. Big bulbous head, almond-shaped eyes, almost like the cover of the John Mack film, the John Mack book. Really almond kind of angular eyes, a little slit where the nose is, not a big nasal passage, but like a kind of a muscle, or like a small slender bone, 2 holes where the nose should be, no nostrils, a slit for a mouth, and indentations for ears. As far as the neck went, it almost looked like it couldn't support the head in size. It was very skinny and slender. The body was not naked. When it came to the shoulders, I was able to see almost like a skin tight, dark bluish type outfit. I want to say maybe their skin type clothes. There was no emotion coming from this being, which made me terrified. The minute I seen it, I tried to like scream and run, but I had this paralysis over me to where I couldn't move at all. And I desperately tried to kind of like look to the left to like scream for my mother because she's sleeping right next to me with my father. And I wasn't even able to do that. When I noticed this being at the foot of my bed, I could notice that there was another one standing at the door, kind of like half of it kind of peeking in at the door. And behind that one, there was another one in the hallway. So there was three of them. I can sense the being sensing me panic. So in my mind, I heard in my own voice, not any other voice. It was almost like I was hearing myself talk to myself. I heard, nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be okay. We're not here to harm you. And then it proceeded to walk in between the twin size bed and the queen size bed, and kind of like, it did not walk, it floated. I don't know how to explain. The best way I can explain it is like, if you ever seen a Denzel Washington, excuse me, not Denzel Washington, Spike Lee film, they have this scene where the characters like has this realization and he floats or she floats forward. It was kind of like it was moving towards me without walking. And it got till about almost where it was going to Eskimo kiss me. And I completely blacked out. And when I woke up, it was morning. The only reason why I sense fear at this time is because I did not know what was happening. And I want to believe that because these beings were so emotionless, they might have been half biological, half mechanical. So I would like to say that maybe these were kind of mechanical beings, but I have no way of knowing. And when I woke up, it was daytime, definite missing time. I tried to explain it to my mother, and she was just told me it was a dream. I was raised very heavily Jehovah's Witness, so if it wasn't a dream, it was a demon. It was never like extraterrestrial or anything like that.
Okay.
So briefly, that was my first experience.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an extraordinary experience. And just to clarify, you saw a physical being with your physical eyes. This was not a dream state. You saw it, and you remembered it at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I've been told that that at times people can have sleep paralysis, and within sleep paralysis, you can see shadow figures and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or you might be in and out of a dream. But I can tell you that this was till this day, their skin is like dolphin skin, but not wet. And it's like really like almost like rubbery. I remember the smell. It was very like, I don't want to say like sulfur or anything. It was just like a smell, almost like mixed with copper and something else. It was just out of this world, different from a dream, for sure. I know what a lucid dream is. It wasn't a lucid dream.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Raphael. I'm going to ask that same question to Jean. Jean, are you able to describe your first experience? I think you also were quite young at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, I remember laying in my crib, and now, I mean, how much do you remember in a crib? Like nothing, but it scared me so bad, I remembered it. I saw this horrid face looking down over my crib at me. For years, I did not know what that was, but it frightened me so bad, I never forgot it. And I had asked my mother many times, what did she think that could have been that scared me? And she couldn't find an answer herself. From there, I've had so many experiences, it would take me forever because I wrote a whole book on it, but I had 4 miscarriages that there were no fetus. And each one between 3 and 4 months each time. The first time that I actually realized and put together that this had been an abduction and they had taken my babies from me was I had read a book of another lady, and she was talking about the same issue happening to her. When I was reading the book, I was sitting on my sofa, about fell off of it because of the similarities were so close. And then I knew that I had had this dream, only I didn't think it was a dream. It seemed extremely real. I know it was real. And I found myself inside a spaceship. I didn't see the outside. I don't know how I got there or how I got out of there, but it was all steel metal on the inside with a big, large machine to my right that was rotating. I don't know what that was. To my left was like elevator doors, and everything, like I said, was very sterile. And the doors opened, and out came a man with a child. This child would have been about the age of the last miscarriage that I had had. So he's about 8 or 9. The man came out with the child. Nothing was ever said. Everything was mentally done, communication-wise. And the man was Nordic, I'm sure, because he had blonde hair, blue-eyed. So did the little boy. I'm blonde and blue-eyed though too. So, but he was beautiful, the man. But I'm sure we were Nordics. They were dressed in white robes with gold ties around their robes, both of them. And they walked up to me, and I'm sitting on a little kind of a shelf there, a little bench, metal bench. And the man just kind of nudged the little boy towards me. I leaned over and I put my arms around that little boy and I held him just really tight. And as a mother, I knew that was my child. I knew. And nothing was ever said. And then the little boy, after I let go of the little boy and he backed up with the man took him back. They got on the elevator. And that was the last thing I remembered. But that was the first time I really connected.
Yeah.
All the years of being scared, being followed throughout my childhood and being terrified, a lot like Raphael was speaking of. I was scared all my life. Told myself constantly that they were going to take me, but I didn't know who they were.
And approximately how old were you when you that last experience, when you finally realized what was happening?
About 30.
Okay.
Maybe a little.
Hey Rupert, do you mind if I just jump in here real quick? Because I also believe that I was a part of the hybridization program myself, and I can totally relate to what she's saying. And there was an instance when I was brought with my son. I have 2 sons right now. One is the age of 12, the other one is the age of 9. And when my oldest was about maybe 6 or 7-ish, I was taken aboard ship and I was walked down a very long hallway by 2 tall, what I used to call tall whites, but then in doing my research, I realized that this was a different species, and it was like, it looked almost exactly as a gray, but a smaller head, longer neck, and it was way taller, about 7.5 to 8 feet tall. One to the left of me, and then I was holding my son's hand, and there was another one to the right of my son holding his hand, and the one to the left of me was holding my hand. We're all walking down this long hallway. I'm not scared, so I'm under some kind of like hypnotic kind of control, because there's no panic, there's no struggling for me. I'm just kind of noticing that this big tall being is walking me and my son down this hallway, and then there's this window that I come to find out is now a 2-way mirror, and on the other side I'm able to peer in. I can see it was a daycare. It was identical to a daycare. It had like a mural on the wall, and it was like identical to like a dentist's office for kids. One of the tall grays decided to walk my son into that room. As I'm looking through this two-way mirror, my son sits down Indian style. In the room, there's these 3 other hybrid children wearing a material almost like a hospital gown, but it was made out of, it looked like it was made out of gauze. And their face was really kind of like pale, and they sat almost like they formed a circle with my son, not my son in the middle, but they formed a circle, and they proceeded to like float an object back and forth to each other, almost like they were teaching my son how to levitate an object. And then I was brought into the same room, sat inside of that room where there was a rocking chair. And that's when I noticed it was a two-way mirror, because I can see my reflection within the mirror when I was sitting in this room. And behind me walks in this hybrid woman, and she does not say anything to me. Her eyes are really big, but she has a beautiful human features, and her hair was very stringy, not full, almost like she didn't have too much hair. And she handed me a child. I sat down in this rocking chair. I looked down at the baby, and the baby looked human and had really big eyes, and like the ears were a little off. They were smaller, and the mouth was a lot smaller, but it looked sick. And they almost was like watching me trying to comfort this baby. And then once that happened, I kind of like blacked out and was in a whole nother scenario. But that kind of like ties in to that whole hybrid experience where she was shown the child as well. So I just wanted to kind of chime in a
Absolutely.
little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities in the accounts of people who have been taken. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Jean, for explaining your first experience or two. Geraldine, are you in a position where you might be able to tell us about your first experience?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I have my camera and my audio working great now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've just heard from Raphael and Jean, and they've explained that they had experiences from a very young age where they physically saw beings in their bedroom. What was your first experience, Geraldine, where you remember, oh, something has happened?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on the panel. I'm a lifelong contactee, and I've been having contact since the age of 5. My conscious contact experience is the age of 5, 15, 24, and 29. That's physical conscious experience. The first experience was at the age of 5, where a bright light came into my parents' room. I was playing. It was nighttime, almost, I think, just dusk. And from their giant window, we lived on top of a pool area, balcony area. Incredibly white light comes into the room, and there's a giant mirror, which is the closet in front of me. And I'm playing with my toys, and I see the light, and the light becomes so bright that it just completely engulfs everything. And I lose consciousness. I get taken into the craft, into this light. And I experience these beings of light. And I don't quite see shape and form yet, but I do see these beings. And after that, I had missing time for about 2-3 hours. And later, I find myself in my crib, and I'm standing up, just sitting, standing up. And I can remember very vividly what happened, and it wasn't a dream state, it was a conscious state. So this was the first time, and I don't know how much more you want me to explain about that, but
Yeah, can you, because the other people have had a chance to talk before you, they were able to introduce
Yeah.
themselves. Would you like to spend a couple of minutes just explaining who you are, how you come to be here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a clinical hypnotherapist, and I specialize in something called epigenetic psychotherapy. And I chose this, shifting my life completely after a very conscious physical contact experience in 2013, which happened in the physical. I was taken out of my bedroom on board a craft and introduced to children. And this was very powerful because, as you will hear my stories, at the age of 15, 24, 29, at the age of 15, I was virgin and became pregnant. And then at the age of 24, not being partnered, I became pregnant again. And I had these strange pregnancies that would last about 3 months or less. And then I would have something that would feel like a miscarriage, but there would be no fetus. And so going to the doctor, talking to gynecologists and trying to understand what happened, there would never be a response to that, because these experiences would also be tied with other physical reactions, very strong physical reactions, which at the time I thought were illness, but I will explain in a moment. And so as a result of these experiences that were very vivid throughout my life, very unique moments where I became severely ill, had these strange pregnancies. At 29 in 2013, when I had this conscious experience being introduced to the children, I didn't quite put the dots together. I didn't quite understand what was happening yet. And as a result of that experience on a Monday, I realized that I had been activated with psychic abilities as a result of this interdimensional contact, to the point where I couldn't leave my house for about 3 months. And so that completely changed my life. And for me, if it wasn't for that experience, I pretty much would have questioned, because I'm very skeptical and analytical about these things as well. And I kind of suppressed the information for several years until 2017, where I went deep into the research and I began to meet other women that had exactly the same experience. I was part of a documentary called Extraordinary the Seeding, and that allowed the story to kind of be told pretty widely, pretty quickly. But it let me connect with women and men around the world that had exact same experiences as me, just like the lady was just speaking earlier, Jean.
Jean.
I recognize very strongly the parallels of hearing these experiences, and they're so unique in how the pattern of these behaviors are and experiences, that it was shocking to me. And so I went into research. I became a clinical hypnotherapist in order to understand the subconscious mind, states of awareness. At what point do we dream? At what point do we have these experiences? And trying to compare and research the difference between conscious contact experience and these interdimensional things. And yeah, so that's my primary area of work. I funded hybridmother.com. It's a support group international for experiencers. So this is what we talk about and we try to research and discuss.
Fantastic.
That's
And
about me.
one of the reasons I'm very happy that you're here today is because you try to help others. There may well be people here today that have had similar experiences that would like to know how to get help. Could you tell us again, slowly, what is the name of your website where you help people?
Absolutely. That's hybridmother.com. And it's a free support group, international. You can join. We have group once a month, and then we have special workshops, psychic development, energetic field development courses as well, because I feel that ET contact is very much an interdimensional thing, and we need to, just as you were explaining in the beginning, kind of elevate our vibrational frequency in a sense in order to define the kind of experiences that we're having. So anyway, that's really
Thank you.
engaged me. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm just going to ask one follow-up question to what you just said, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You said that you felt that you had psychic abilities activated. What kind of psychic abilities were those?
Well, it's what people would call medical psychic abilities, medical intuition now. But essentially, when I work with my clients in DNA reprogramming and hypnotherapy, completely merging with their physical bodies, I can see what's happening with the organs in the body. I can see energy, life force, accumulation and stagnation of life force in the body. I can see everything that they do. I merge with them completely. So, when I'm doing past life regressions, I'm visualizing and seeing everything that they're doing, but can also tune into the many fields of the body, infinite layers of their field, to understand what's happening in their life right now. And this really assisted me in understanding ET contact and its interdimensional nature, and how we can actually direct the kind of experiences that we're having. So yeah, it's been an interesting ability.
Fantastic. Thank you, Geraldine. I'm going to rotate back around to other people and come back to you in a few minutes. I'm going to ask Raphael, following on from the experiences that you described, how did your experiences progress through your lifetime?
Well, Well, first of all, I would like to say to both the other experiences, wow, and thank you so much for sharing your story. It truly connects and resonates with me. So I really do hope that it resonates with others, and the love gets spread more, because it needs to be heard. And well, as far as the experiences go, I remember I have never been regressed. So I kind of remember a lot of my experiences in fragments. So I remember when I was 5, I had that experience with the Grays. Then the very next experience would be the hybrid experience that I briefly tapped in about and told you with my son. That would make me about in my 30s, late 20s. And I've had another experience with a mantis bee before that, which that experience was kind of interesting because it was during a meditational state. That's why I said that sometimes it's it starts in a meditation and it might manifest in real life, and then sometimes it stays in a meditation and it's kind of like a remote viewing aspect. And as far as the abilities, I want to tap in on that as well. I'm able to do a little bit of what they call streetlight interference. When I had my experiences and I was really having a tough time, I reached out to a lady called Miss Denise Stoner, which is she wrote a couple of books on other abductees, and she's researched a lot of people. And then I've had the state director of Florida, Miss Terry Lynch, at the time. They both came over my house when I was telling them my stories, and she came up to me. She was like, "Hey, when you walk under street lights, do they happen to like malfunction?" And it just so happens that every time I would walk underneath like a regular old street light from time to time, they would just shut off. And then when I was in distance, they would turn back on. After a while, the ability kind of went away, but I noticed that if I heavily meditate and I focus on a street light, I'm able to shut it off no problem. I don't know how I got that ability. I don't know how I'm able to do it. It was just something I was able to do. As well as remote viewing, I do that super easy, supernatural. It comes too easy to me that it's super scary. So my experiences would go, the one that I had as a kid, my experience with O, which is the mantis being that happened in a meditation to physical state. Then I had the experience with the Grays walking down the hallway with my son. And then the final experience would be what I would like to call a military abduction, because I had a direct UFO contact to where I was mentally connected to a UFO. It was making moves in the sky to the point where there was helicopters flying all around it. Must have been like 4 or 5 helicopters flying over this UFO that was in the distance. I believe that whatever government or black ops or whatever, I can only speculate. I don't know who did it, but whatever organization out there wanted to know if I had any downloaded information from this ET craft. So I believe that on that night that I've had that experience with the UFO, my whole family was abducted in a MyLab experience. And that would be the extent of it. It would be about 4 experiences that I can physically remember, and the rest would be kind of hazy dream stuff.
Thank you very much, Raphael. I'm going to ask the same question of Jean. Now, you've had, it sounds like you've probably had hundreds of experiences with beings. Would you mind from where you left off with the last experience, that first time you realized that you maybe had children with these beings? Would you mind explaining your experiences from then onwards?
Well, I think they're still taking me. Why they take me now, I don't know. At my age, I'm certainly not producing babies. And Geraldine, oh my, I could so associate what she was saying. It just, did you ever have, I have a question for her. Did you ever have a child of your own?
No, I don't. I don't have children. Yeah.
I couldn't either. I had, they took 4 of my babies and they messed me up so bad physically that I could never have my own children. But I did adopt my son. And I have a very good friend, Margie Kay, who's a psychic, and she told me one day, she knows Tommy too. She said, you know, he is a star child. And he definitely is. I researched star children, and he is an indigo. He's a lead singer, very musically talented, writes music. Raphael can associate with this. He's at band practice right now. But I felt like they led me to him because I felt like it took a special mother to understand his needs and his psychic abilities and things to raise a star child. So, but it was very hard on me because I felt the loss of these babies so bad. Back to originally where I think they chose me from the crib, and I think they knew what they were going to do with me to use me for a hybrid mother. And then throughout growing up, I would see, we lived in kind of a country setting. Everybody had a lot of acreage around us, and we had a barn in the back, and I would see this silver man, I called him. He followed me, like we would be out playing tag of the neighborhood children. And my brother said one time I grabbed him and I was just terrified. And I said, the silver man, he's back there, he's watching me. Don't you see him? And he said he never saw him himself, but he said, I knew you saw something because you were just terrified. And I grew up with this silver man every time I was outside following me. And the weird thing is, I know he had like a silver suit, but I can't see his face. So I think maybe the face was so frightening to me, maybe that I just don't want to remember. I don't know. But I kept, even when I would be in the house, I knew they were watching my house. I knew they were watching me all the time. And I knew I guess they were taking me. And I kept telling my parents, they're going to take me. And as a parent, that's pretty frightening to have your child keep telling you someone's going to take them. And I remember my dad saying, maybe we should put iron bars on Jeannie's windows, because in my bedroom, I had 2 windows, but it wouldn't have mattered, you know, but I didn't realize what was going on at that time. And he thought that might help me feel more secure. They never did do that, but I was truly grown up frightened all the time, knowing they were watching me and periodically taking me, although I can't remember a lot of it as far as being abducted. Now I feel they still take me. I wake up with terrible wounds. I record them all, scratches, cuts, burns, just really strange afflictions that I go to bed without, but I wake up with them. So I don't know what they're doing to me when they take me. I don't know if it could be something that's healing. Maybe they're working on healing me now, both mentally and physically, which is why I wanted to get in with you, Rupert, on the CE5s. Most of my memories of them were bad, frightened as a child, scaring me, taking my babies. They were not good memories. And I'd like to develop some better ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those experiences. And there's so much that that we can do as people. This group is trying to not just determine truths, but trying to make people's lives better, trying to establish more positive relationships. And we do even reach out to these beings who are causing pain to people in a sort of ambassadorial, I'm not sure what the right word is. We're trying to negotiate with them, to have talks with them, to try and help them to understand the impact of what they're doing on us. And we're trying to work towards better solutions to what they're doing. So the first step with any problem is to understand the problem, which is what we're doing here today. And I'm so thrilled that you're joining us in CE5, and we hopefully will be able to make things a little bit better in the future with what we're doing. Thank you, Jean. I'm going to move on now to Geraldine. Now, I've talked to you before, I think a couple of years ago, about the extent of your experiences, and they're vast. You've had experiences with many different beings. Is it possible for you to give an overview of some of the different experiences you've had, some of the different projects that these people, these beings, and the military, the different people, different entities you're involved with?
Yes, absolutely. So my experience is kind of they're different, different kinds of experiences. And I didn't realize this until later, until studying and understanding this ET contact till later. But at the age of 5, 15, 24, and 29 were conscious contact experiences. I remember vividly everything from beginning to the end, what happened there. But in between those were other experiences as well that were very much interdimensional. And those were vivid as well, but I would recall them as vivid dreams, dream states. So those experiences were a combination of both interdimensional contact and also military experiences. And there's in my opinion, a quite specific way of categorizing and experiencing them based on the side effects, physical side effects, and non-physical side effects that result from these experiences. So my experiences interdimensionally have always been positive from the filter and understanding that we are dealing with a very highly advanced experiences. We enter into different dimensions in which things are operating in different ways. Laws of physics and also laws of the universe are applied for some of these experiences. And so the way that we perceive them can be very limited to the human mind. So an example in the hybridization program, which is the majority of my experiences, there I experienced it from the ET beings or interdimensions, but also military. And so what that means is that military experiences in the hybridization program are a little bit different, and primarily in my experience for cloning kind of programs. And so that would involve taking DNA from the body, not just prime life force with the egg, but just DNA. So it could be any part of the body. They take a spinal tap or information like that, and then use that for the cloning program. So I would wake up with scars on the body. I would undergo as a child a strange being taken out of my classroom and undergo strange testings, psychic testings in daytime, just taken out of my classroom. And I know that there's a connection between that and the military as a child. And later on, having experiences interdimensionally where I am taken into other kind of spaces, military spaces, and their, experiments or things are being done on me. So these are very specific because of the nature of the experiences, what you're smelling, what you're sensing, the way that the experience feels. It's completely different than an interdimensional experience. Interdimensional experiences, there is an element that transcends human logic in a way. Transcends our physics, transcends our technologies in the way that we understand them and see them. So you're going to be seeing things that are incredibly minimalist, highly advanced technology, a lot of light, a lot of vibrational frequency. This is another dimension that you're entering into. Therefore, the experiences are very soft. They don't cause severe amounts of interference physically in your life long term. Okay, that you might have some experiences short term, but they won't cause long-term experiences. So becoming pregnant, for example, the gestation process is sped up, and then the fetuses would be removed, brought into artificial incubation tanks, and these experiences will be removed out of the umbilical cord or through just a regular birth canal. And the scarring that is left behind, like Jean was mentioning, it is something that I experienced as well at a very early age when I was at the age of 15. They discovered, because I was having these complications, the scarring. And the scarring is very unique. It's very clean cut, very sleek incisions and scarring, and usually quite clean in how it's done. Okay. But military seems to be a little bit different in how they do that. It's a lot more physical, leaving more scars. Okay. So other interdimensional contact was we're connecting with, so I work with the genetic aspect of it in trying to understand how ET contact is going down family lineages. We tend to have patterns, and we tend to connect with family groups of interdimensionals family-wise. So also taking a look at that connection and understanding the councils or the groups of beings that we connect with has helped me understand the kind of hybridization programs that I'm a part of. Some of these hybridization programs were in order to create really high vibration consciousness soul embodiments that then are put into the incarnation cycle, the human matrix cycle. And some of these interdimensional beings are meant for more parasitic kind of groups and purposes. So some of the children that are being created are meant to be entities, or they're meant to be just recycled for their energy. Okay, and I know this goes into a little more complex things, but these are the experiences that I've had. And noticing those differences in the way that we experience the contact and the side effects and the way that it's presented to you later, because the hybridization program is implantation. There's elements of implantation where technology or bio interdimensional technology is put into the body. People call them implants. And then after that, there's the insemination process. There's the gestation process, the extraction of the actual fetus, and then there's a presentation. Okay, so this seems to be very specifically the way this hybridization program is presented for interdimensional beings. They present the child to you to create an emotional imprint and memory imprint in the child. And so you will have a dream later on after you have given birth to the child. And the child, not all the children are developed to physical form. That's something I want to keep in mind. So in other words, women can donate, or men can participate, creating perhaps thousands of fetuses, and they are utilized in different programs depending on the kind of beings that you're interacting with. You asked me about the kind of beings, and I mean, I have met so many different kinds of beings, everything from grays, and there are many different kinds of grays. There are short grays that are more mechanical, artificial intelligence, and there are very highly developed gray-like beings as well that operate in higher dimensions. There are humanoid type beings. I have interacted with a lot of humanoid type interdimensionals that are incredibly tall, that have a completely different vibrational frequency and pool to them. I have interacted with blue beings. I have interacted with, oh God, so many different kinds, just strange creature-like beings, cat mixture, what people call these Lyrans, Arcturian type beings with very elongated heads. And the more my contact has evolved, and the way it has evolved as I learned to master my own self, is that now my contact is more interdimensional with very high vibration beings. So they are more light bodies, less form, more light, interdimensional, more highly developed organisms. So that's kind of where my contact has kind of changed. No longer part of the hybridization program by choice. But also military experiences had gone up when I went public. This is a very true phenomena. When people go public with their experiences, they tend to experience more military attention. And I experienced that severely, to the point where I wanted to leave this phenomena completely, or, the field. But then understanding the mechanics again, was able to overcome that. And so now my experience is only very high dimensions. So I hope that wasn't too much, but
No, it's all fascinating. Thank you very much, Geraldine. I appreciate that. I'm going to rotate back around to Raphael, and what might help our attendees, if it's okay for each of our guests to do this. I know it'll be quicker and easier for some and harder for others, but if we can, if you can tell us, let's give a summary of the different types of being that you have interacted with, appearance, and then if you know the name, go ahead and tell us the name. And if you're able to, with the name and the appearance, just the category of what type of experience is it that you're having with them? Is it physical? Is it interdimensional or spiritual? Is it hybrid? Is it friendship? Is it some other higher purpose? So appearance of the being, name of the being if you know what they are, and type of experience.
Okay, I'll start with the it would be more the biological, mechanical grays. And
Actually, Raphael, I apologize. I'm just going
worry.
to ask you to pause a second. I know we've had some people join us, so I'm going to welcome those people to the group. I've just muted everybody so there's no background noise. Raphael, would you mind unmuting and continuing there? Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. The first entity that I have had contact with would be the gray, which I consider to be more of a biological robotoid type deal, because I didn't really sense too much of a like, it's almost like I'm here to do a job, I'm going to do my job type. There was nothing else involved. They didn't care if I was scared or anything like that. They just wanted to comfort me in the best way possible at that moment to do their job. That's what it felt like. The tall grays that walked me down the hallway that I've had interacted with, which for sure didn't give me no vibes of harm or anything like that. The skin felt very, like I said, every time I feel the texture of the skin, it always reminds me of like what a dolphin or a stingray would feel like if they weren't wet. So that's the best I can describe the texture. And that gray that I had contact with was easily over 7.5 feet tall.
Raphael, do you mind if I interrupt?
Yeah, of course.
The relationship between the tall grays and the shorter grays, do you feel that the taller ones were in control, in command?
Great question. Yeah, I totally feel that all my experiences kind of bottleneck together to where the grays would be more the worker bees, kind of taking me out the home, putting me on the ship, taking me off the ship, bringing me back without harm. The tall grays would be more like the scientists aboard ship, the people kind of doing the work or escorting me to the other hybrid humanoid beings that were doing the work or the kind of interaction and communication with me, which was all mental as well. And then when I had interaction with the insectoid being, I would say that would be more like a supervisory connection I had with that being. It was more like a checkup. He popped up in meditation. His name was O, and he was really concerned with, I sensed the male energy. That's why I keep on saying he was really concerned with me physically viewing him with my eyes. I got this energy from him to where if I saw him in physical form, it would possibly stop my heart out of pure fear. So the communication it was manifesting in physical form, but everything was only a peripheral vision and mental communication. And then one time in meditation, dreamlike state, vivid dream state, I've had contact with a being that I would consider to be an Arcturian being with an elongated skull, very loving. The communication with this being was so loving, it felt like every cell was being hugged in my body at the same time. That would be the extent of what I remember, but I know for a fact that I've more than likely had contact with other beings. Before I stop talking, though, I want to address some of the things that the other panelists has said. When it comes to a military abduction, I totally agree. The difference, in my opinion, between an abduction scenario to where it's like more an out of body experience or a physical experience with an ET compared to the military. I remember waking up out of my sleep state when I had the military abduction. It felt like anesthesia. I have had anesthesia. I've been under in the hospital before for surgery for other things. And I just remember waking up in this situation to where my lower back felt like it had a dose of whatever they gave me when I went to sleep at the hospital. So it felt more human in the grogginess and the way I was waking up. That's why I consider that one to be a military abduction. And when it comes to the markings on the body, I don't know if the camera could pick this up, but I actually woke up with this triangle scoop this morning. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a complete triangle. And it's funny because everybody's talking about scars, and I'm like, I woke up with a triangle scoop this morning. So, and the way it looks, I'll show more pictures. I'll send them to Rupert, but the way it looks is completely indented in. It almost looks like it was burnt, no blood, and it's almost a perfect triangle on my thumb. Don't know how it got there. Woke up with it and noticed it when I was using the restroom in the morning. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to leave at the moment. My family just arrived and I have to go address them. They just came from Florida, but it was a complete honor to be a part of this, Rupert. Thank you for inviting me. I wish I could stay longer. And to the other two panelists, Geraldine, I think it is, and Jean, I want to say thank you so much for all the love and all the information that you're giving out to the community and all the help. And I just want to say that my heart is with you. If you guys need anything from me, please feel free to reach out. And that goes to anybody else that's listening. If you're curious about anything else, feel free to message me on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to connect with you and explain anything further. So peace and love, Rupert. Thank you so much again. And I would have to exit at this point.
Thank you so much, Raphael, for being here. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Peace and love, guys. Bye.
Raphael is he produces music. He produced the music for our documentary, Camping with Tall Whites. That's on our YouTube channel, if anybody's interested. And he has just produced some music for a short video, which will be released in a week or two, which is my experience, Global CE5's experience when we went to Skinwalker Ranch. So he's got some very atmospheric music there he's produced. I look forward to sharing that music and that video with you. Jean, would you like to answer my question? Now, how many different species of beings have you interacted with? What is their appearance? Do you know their names? I'm not sure. Is Jean still there? Yep, she's still here. You're muted, Jean. I apologize. I muted everybody earlier on. You'll have to unmute yourself there.
Okay. You hear me now?
And yeah, and you know what? I'm just going to say one thing before. It's interesting the nature of your technical problems with what's going on your screen. There you go. It just kicked in. There's information in there, and I don't have the technical know-how to know what that information is, but it does make me wonder what's going on. Is there any kind of type of communication going on there? I just saw we had green kick in. It'll be interesting if anybody has the ability to analyze that. If that looks like, because it's common for there to be electrical weird interferences, like Raphael was saying, when there's technology. Anyway, Jean, I apologize. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to go back a little bit because of Geraldine. Her and I have so much in common. When I was growing up, I had a large scar on my stomach that ran from the top of the pelvis bone almost to my belly button. And I was changing clothes one day with a girlfriend and we were going somewhere. She asked me, did you have a surgery on your stomach there? And I had noticed the scar, but it was only there for a few years. And it was really purplishy, but it was very straight. And I asked my mother, I said, did I have a surgery when I was a baby and you never told me? You know, where did this scar come from? And this is so weird because my mother couldn't see the scar. She'd look at me and she'd say, there's nothing there. And I go, you can't see the scar in my stomach? She says, no, there, you didn't have any surgery. It was like she had just been blinded to the whole thing. But I think there was a purpose in that scar. And I was probably about 12 when this happened. So it was, you know, before I got pregnant, you know, when I was going into puberty. But anyway, I thought her talking about the scars, I thought that was strange. Also, how things run in the family. I named my book Family Secrets. This is a copy of it here, because I think everything runs in families. From paranormal, my great-grandmother was a psychic, pretty famous in Kansas City in the 50s. And they took, not only did they take my babies, but they took my brother's sperm. And he remembers it vividly. And he saw the alien walk out with the tube of his sperm. So I think they do choose certain families, whether it's for a certain DNA or something heritage wise. I'm not sure what it is. But these things, usually if you see one person in a family that's been abducted or has a lot of paranormal events in their lives, you will find others that do too as well. So I do think it runs in families. As far as in the military experiences that Geraldine was talking about, when I came out with my book in 2017, and of course I'm in MUFON and I do a lot of field investigations, I had so much happen with the military. I had helicopters all the time flying over my house. I saw strange people walk past my window and I couldn't figure out where they came from because my yard's all fenced. I don't just my computer was attached, and I mean, I found a drive in it, a thumb drive in the back part of my computer. And I took it to a military man that runs a lot of strange things like the military would on it. And he said it was in a code that he couldn't figure out what it was. But some way they had gotten in my house, even though I have a security system and hooked into my computer. So I do everything on the computer. I think they wanted to know, you know, my book was on there. I think they was wanting to know what cases I was working on. I've had just many strange things with the military. And I think it's because they want to know what we know and what we're doing, especially with MUFON. But as far as my experiences with the types of aliens, I have, I'm like Raphael with I remember the small grays. I've seen them in my room before. And it seems like, and I just have glimpses of memories of the large grays, like working on me, doing things to me on the ship. But I can't remember too much about it, some. The Nordics I remember quite well because they showed me my son who looked like them. So I do remember that. And the reptilians, I have a terrible, terrible fear of the reptilians. Something has happened and I must be blocking it because I'm so fearful of them. And it's like they were very, very mean and very ugly as far as to look at. And the Nordics were handsome and the grays were just grays with large hair, heads and the almond eyes. So, but the reptilians, I do wonder why I get that fear from them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know something's happening.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Jean. Thank you for sharing those experiences. Geraldine, I'm going to move on to you. Now, I know you've had experiences with a wide range of different beings, and, you know, do feel free to take a little bit of time to tell us about these different beings if you can.
Yeah, thank you. I made a list here to try to be more concise. I've connected with Arcturians, with about 10 different kinds of grays, reptilians, and reptilians, also about 9 or 8 different species of reptilians, draconians. Draconians are very specific. The majority of my military experiences have been in connection with grays, reptilians, and draconians, specifically, I will say. And not only the presence of Draco in military experiences being there, but directing the majority of these kinds of agendas or whatever programs they're trying to carry out. There's a lot of mutual screening between humanoids, grays, and reptilians that occurs as well, both drug-induced and also interdimensional somehow. Orions, Mantids, Andromedans, Tausetians, Nordics, Pleiadians, these tall whites, and probably about 4 or 5 different species of tall white type beings, just in the way that they're present energetically and also their features, the colors of their eyes, the way that their hair is, just they feel different. Blue type beings, couple different kinds of blue type beings, both combined with animalistic features, and also more humanoid. There are also these translucent beings that look like what you can call like jellyfish type material bodies that are translucent with light cores. The core of their body is like a light. The spinal cord is like a light. The brain or whatever's at the essence of the head is like a light. And there are several different kinds of these kinds of translucent type beings, different sizes, and species of elongated heads, many of those different kinds. And also what I call Anunnaki type beings, which are a little bit hard to describe, but very tall beings, different kinds as well. And I will say that none of these species I find are just only in the white or dark. In other words, not all good and bad. I believe that just like humans, because they are many of these, all organisms in this universe are genetically modified. This is my opinion based on my research. We all seem to have different genetic aspects that will express itself as we evolve. And I noticed this in ETs as well, that they are also a cocktail of DNA to create them. They might have one strong physical, image or genetic expression like humans, for example. But like in reptilians, I've seen many of them being hybridized with both grays and humanoids as well as my children. My children as well have been a combination of both humanoid grays, children with gigantic pupils about the size of our ocular socket, and then larger heads, smaller bodies, frail, a little bit more thin structure, translucent type skin. So you can begin to see these different species kind of emerging in these, complex little beings that are being created. And also, one of my children were combined with reptilian. So you begin to see humanoid / reptilian features in the body. The most impactful thing to look at is the eyes and the pigmentation of the colors and the designs of their pupils. Incredible pupil designs that look like cat eyes, slits, colors that you can't really even see with the human spectrum. And also many other species that I don't have names for. I do want to mention that, and for many of you that have contact, for those of you that have contact with councils are very interesting to me because councils are made up of several different kinds of species, it seems. And a lot of these species are not species that many of us are widely familiar with. But what I do see is that these councils are an expression of DNA being managed by those specific groups. And so it seems like we connect with different kinds of councils. They're like cocktail of DNAs that are being expressed in these different physical traits. And so they all have different agendas based on their vibrational frequency. So the way I usually talk about ETs is mostly vibrational frequency more than their physical appearance, because also I want to mention that in some ET contact, there's an element of screening where they will present a certain image externally, which would be the most pleasing psychologically, subconsciously for the human that they're interacting with. But then behind that, there's actually another physical appearance that maybe is more grotesque or different, like a reptilian or draconian or something like this. So I will also mention that's an important element to note, that it's in my opinion, easier to look at the vibrational frequency to understand the intention as opposed to just the physical. So I'll leave it there.
No, thank you very much. I completely agree. One striking example of that we discovered is when we tried to connect a couple of years ago with a healing being. We, not a specific one, we were just reaching out, please can we connect with a healing being. Several people all saw the same humanoid image, and it was a female, kind of a beautiful female, regal looking alien humanoid. And she introduced herself to us as Tuk Tuk. And but we went in there, we got to know her, we went back and back and back, remote viewing, and eventually I asked, you know, is this how you really look? Can you show us how you really look? And what we saw then was more like how you described, a translucent, teardrop-shaped, swirling, colorful being of light. Yeah, but had she shown us, I mean, she's not a she really, but had she has that sort of feeling to her. Had she shown us that image when we had first gone out looking, we would not have even recognized that as being a conscious, sentient life form. So yes, that's fascinating what you're saying. I'm going to ask a couple of follow-up questions there, Geraldine. Approximately how many different hybrid children do you think you might have with different species?
Well, I know because I take a look at my many lives and my interactions, but I have 24 hybrid children that I created in this lifetime, and they are in many different agendas.
Right. And you've met up, you've been introduced to how many of those?
I met physically 4 of them in this experience in 2013, where they were presented to me.
Yeah.
But I also connected interdimensionally with many of the others to understand my connection to them and my role in them. Yeah.
Thank you. And another follow-up question. These councils of different species that you referred to, do you know, do any of them have names? I know they often talk telepathically, so it's a little bit hard, but do they have names, or are there any, are you able to describe any particular councils or groups?
Yeah. So when I began to really download and remote view in these higher dimensions, my connections to them, I found that I was connected with several different kinds of councils, council of 8, council of 12, council of 13, council of 22. And what I discovered is that the number of the beings that were involved had to do with the dimension from which they emerged from. So if it was a council of 8, it was from an 8th dimensional group or vibrational frequency. But the members of those councils are not just tied to the 8th dimensional plane, they can come from other dimensions as well, higher or lower. And the names are really just more about the number of them. And I think it's really about the vibrational frequency that they're holding there. And some of them have very specific agendas, like they're deeply connected. But what I notice and what I hear a lot in my support group, talking with hundreds of contactees as well, is that it seems like these groups really seem to have a very close connection with their contactees. They monitor monitor or exchange really information. It's about an exchange of information. The human experiences something both physically and interdimensionally, and this is what is being experienced through the council as well. There is a directive, there is an opportunity, there's always opportunities for consciousness, opportunities for higher vibrational experiences, both interdimensionally, vice versa. And the human can kind of explore those different dimensions of that council through their own dream state or out-of-body experiences. So I see that there's almost like a motherly, kind of like a very maternal, protective kind of interaction in these kinds of council interactions. I don't really see very negative at all experiences with any of these councils, but I do see that within 13 dimensions and under, they seem to apply more by the laws of the matrix, which is a dualistic perspective. And in that, there is an exchange. So that's very important for people to be mindful. And I see this with my clients, that what I notice from very high vibrational beings is that there isn't really a need for an exchange, because they apply by the laws of free will. And that free will means you don't interfere with any other being in any negative way. Sometimes I see people channeling information from these councils, and if you have to listen very, very closely to that information, because sometimes laws of nature or laws of truth are kind of inverted, kind of secretly, quietly, covertly, and it takes a trained ear to kind of tune into that and really understand the messages that are coming through. Because we're also looking through our human filter. So so a lot of people are channeling, and that was the nature of my connection with these councils as well. They want to provide vast amounts of information for you to channel. You can use that information however you wish, but I was very discerning in who I was connecting with. And at the end of it, in my opinion, what I decided was to not work with any specific council, but work directly with my own source, because I found that that was the less exchange or parasitic exchange. But I do utilize these councils for information when necessary. So this is how personally I use them.
Thank you so much. There's a wealth of very valuable information in there. That's fantastic. Thank you. Jean, I'm going to ask you a question again. The experiences that you've had, there's two questions I want to ask. One is, what do you feel the purpose was for those beings, their interactions with you? What is the purpose of their interactions with you? And the second question is, how have their interactions affected you emotionally, psychologically, in your life? So two distinct questions there.
Wanting to be a mother so bad, that was the most important thing to me in the world. So that affected me so negatively that they would take my children, and then I was never able to have my own. Although my son is my own now. I got him as an infant, he's mine. But it was a horrible scar on me, emotionally and mentally. And I still, even to this day at my age, can't get quite past that.
Yeah.
I recently, matter of fact, I was at the same convention that you were at, where we were selling our books there in Independence. And I saw a psychic there. Everybody told me how great he was. And he told me I would see all my children before I die. He told me that I gave those children up willingly, knowing what I was doing for a better purpose for the world. So I hope he's right.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, and he told me I was part Arcturian myself. And he told me some interesting things though about the babies. And I did have a kind of a vivid dream where I thought I saw a child. It wasn't a child, actually, it was a grown person, but I felt that they were my child standing next to me. And for some reason, I couldn't look directly at it. I could only partially see it. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that might be what he was talking about too. So it's so far. I told him it better hurry up and happen because I'm getting old. So I don't know if I'll see him or not.
Yeah. Well, you and I are going to be doing CE5 in a couple of weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully we'll be able to make some introductions during that event. Who knows?
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Thank you. And Geraldine, I'm going to ask you the same question. I know you've been involved in many different programs. Why are these beings doing this? What is their purpose? And how has it affected you in your life?
Well, it's changed my life completely. I mean, in a ways, this, I used to be a event planner, and after my contact experience, and in 2017, after my hypnotherapy sessions, after downloading all this information, I immediately sold the business. Like the next day, I ended my engagement to my partner, and I dedicated myself to this work from that moment on until today. So, it's completely changed my life because ET contact for me is is incredibly important, and it will be incredibly important in the coming years because of the nature of the vibrational frequency that we're in collectively. Every human needs to cultivate and master interdimensional navigation and communication because it's the activation of our higher faculties, and it's within those higher faculties that we integrate the higher and the lower bodies to create a whole self that is really important for human navigation, discernment, truth, health, vitality, highest optimum existence. So that being said, interdimensional contact, what we're talking about, it's really the tip of the iceberg, because what is beyond that is an understanding of our interdimensional holographic DNA, in which we are, generations, and we extend. Our consciousness extends interdimensionally and exists simultaneously in these dimensions. This is how we are interacting with these beings. So it has changed my life completely, in the way I see humanity, in the way I see the purpose of humanity, but also in understanding the nature of our existence. And this is answering your next question. Um, what I see by navigating these ethers and this realm, this organism, is that we tend to be existing within the 13-dimensional plane. And in that 13-dimensional plane, it is filled with life, all kinds of life forms, and they seem to abide by the law of duality. And with that dualistic way of thinking, there is a part that is a survival mechanism for the matrix. I believe that the hybridization program is in order to maintain this matrix, which is like any organism. It requires the cells of this organism to be operating and maintaining a certain homeostasis and balance. And therefore, hybrids are created and reintroduced into a hybridization, into an incarnation program, which is what we participate in. And we participate in that program simultaneously interdimensionally. So we exist here, we exist in the 11, in the 12, and the beings that we interact with are essentially ourselves that we interact with in these higher dimensions. It's the same for the hybridization program. There is a combination of DNA to create these organisms, and the combination of that genetic data defines the vibrational frequency of the organism. So these organisms are then either inserted as our children, you and I, and we can talk for hours about the history of our human race here, but we, in my opinion, in research, are a product of hybridization, you and I. Therefore, the children that we are having are also specifically designed genetically and vibrational frequency in order to be inserted into these timelines as we evolve collectively. So in other words, we just exist to maintain a balance. There is no right, there is no wrong. Parasitism is everywhere. It is within us, it is without us. And it really depends on how we choose to operate this navigation hologram that will define the kind of contact that we're having. And I utilize this understanding for helping people transcending traumatic experiences and also accessing higher dimensional contact. As I mentioned before, contact with really high dimensional beings, there is no exchange, there is no parasitism involved in that. And that level of unity consciousness is really the highest form of manifestation of this of contact, and what I would invite all to begin to kind of interact with. Is there a purpose specifically for the lower beings of vibrational frequency? Yes. Higher beings, not so much. We are just existing, coexisting, and co-creating in a kind of an organism. That's my take.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask maybe one more question of each of you, and then I'm going to open up the floor to anybody that may have any specific questions. Any of our attendees can ask either of our guests any questions. So I'm going to come back to Jean, and this is just an open question for you. Is there anything else that you would like to tell people today? Is there anything else, any other experiences you've had that you wish to share with us? Or would you like to tell us about MUFON, or what to do if they see something, if they have an experience? Anything else at all that you would like to share with everybody today?
Oh, I've had so many paranormal and extraterrestrial alien type experiences, I wouldn't know where to begin with it all. But yes, MUFON, if you see something you think's an alien, or you see lights in the sky, or orbs, flaming bulbs of bright orange lights and things, we get all kinds of stuff. Just go to MUFON.com and you will see right there, it'll guide you right through to report it. Once you report it, it goes to the state director who assigns the cases out. Usually they try to assign them to the area that we live in because we know our areas so well. And I don't understand all of this myself, and I would love to get hypnotized so I can remember everything myself. I want to know, and I've never done that, but I do need to do that. I'm not sure what their agenda is. I think like everything, there's good teachers, good cops, bad cops. I think it's the same with the aliens. I think there are good ones, and I think there are some that are not so great. What their agenda is, though, I don't know. One analogy I always liked was where you take a small kitten into the veterinarian, and the vet pokes it and sticks it with needles and does all kinds of things. And to the kitten, it's terrified and it's being hurt. But in the long run, we're not hurting the kitten. We're trying to save it and its longevity of its life and help it. So maybe I think I try to go with that analogy, that even though I've woke up with so many scars and battle scars, and I woke up to where both my arms were all scratched up. I think I fight them when they try to take me because it looks like defense wounds where I'm holding my arms up. But even so, I like to go with the analogy of perhaps what they're doing is helping us, but we don't see it like the kitten.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jean. I think I love that analogy. I think our perspective on life and the universe as humans is so small in people's regular, so small, so narrow in people's regular day-to-day lives. There's so much more going on out there, and it's very hard to make any kind of judgments on any of this other stuff until we really open our minds and explore and investigate, and then our perspective changes, and that leads then to greater knowledge and understanding, hopefully evolving us away from being just scared kittens.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the same of you, Geraldine. Is there any other experiences or anything else that you would like to say to people at all?
Well, not so much. I'll just end with saying that when I say parasitic exchanges, 13 dimension and under, I just want to be clear that actually I love that you said that, Rupert, that it's about our perspective. It's very important that we understand that there is no right and wrong, and it really depends on us, how we interact, how we choose to interact, and how we choose to experience that. So that's really all I want to say. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. If do our guests have time to field some answers, field some questions from people who are out there? Okay, so if anybody does have any questions for either of our two guests, please do go ahead and raise your hands, and I'll try and pick you in the order that your hands come up if possible. Please, when you ask your question, please go ahead and ask. Let us know who specifically you're asking the question to, both people or just one. And I'm going to ask our guests to try to keep your questions fairly short, fairly concise. I think there may well be people here who have had their own experiences. And if you would like to share your own experiences, let's leave that until a little bit later, maybe about 10 minutes from now. Admin, hello.
Hi. My question is a little bit of the spiritual nature. Is it, when we use the term abduction, we're using a human legalistic term. Is it possible that in the person's soul contract, before they came to this realm, that they agreed to this type of abduction to be a benefit to mankind?
I know Geraldine has some views on this, so I'm going to ask Geraldine to respond to that.
Sure. Just from my perspective, I feel that it goes even beyond that. I feel that it's encoded in our DNA. Imagine yourself being an organism with instructions to be able to activate certain aspects of yourself. I feel that we activate, let's say, the Arcturian strain within us, based on the level of vibrational frequency that we hold. And then that's how we have that contact with the Arcturian. We are able to merge and connect with that dimension and interact with it. So it's even, so when we say contracts, that's even that is through our human filter. But these are it's literally encoded in our DNA. And that's kind of what I've been kind of seeing with my research. And I think probably Jean too, as she sees that this goes in families. We seem to have, it looks like consciousness, it self-organizes. Okay, this our DNA, it self-organizes, if you can imagine, on the planet Earth in a very intelligent manner. And the same way that we kind of unite with our families, friends, our colleagues, our network that we create, we are all united by vibrational frequency. In the same way, we interact based on our resonance interdimensionally with these different species. So again, everything from lowest to highest, we have the ability of experience. And it is very much a kind of contract or agreement, I believe, that goes way back to simultaneous timelines in which we exist.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jean, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I agree with Geraldine completely. And this is what I was told by the psychic, that I had agreed to all this way before. And, I think there could be like a contract that we have with them that we agreed to. I call it abduction because I didn't willingly know they were going to do this to me, or did I ask for it? So that's why I use the word abduction.
Thank you very much. Bibi, do you have a question?
I do. So I have practiced the E5 in the past real quick. And I did it with a group here. I'm from Colorado. And I had a very weird experience afterwards. And I'm not going to get into it. But it scared me. And this was 2 days later. So I have a question about, I want to find out, I don't know if I should open up Pandora's box or not. Basically, I just want to, find out, should I be regressed? I have a lot of things that have happened throughout my life, and I've been drawn to this, and That's what I'd like to find out, what the panel's opinion may be.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, I'm going to ask Geraldine to go first with that.
Yeah, this is a very important, very serious question that we have to take a moment and meditate on. And the reason why is because the answer to this question is will define your evolution as a soul. Okay, because when you open that box, you are entering into the unknown. And that's one of the most powerful things that humans can do, because it begins to rewire your entire system, both physically, psychologically, and psychically. Okay. So if you have been having these experiences and being called to the phenomena for a long time, it is a gift for you, and it is an invitation that is encoded in you. So there is something there for you. There is a purpose for your life, or perhaps, I don't want to say one specific purpose, but there is a clarity in who you are, why you're here. And I feel that lots of humans really like to identify that, or to clarify that, or to understand that a little bit better. But we find ourselves, and you begin to understand that you are more than just a physical. This is important for you, especially at this time in your evolution, because it'll help you understand so many things: your connection to your family, the kind of dreams that you're having, the experiences that you've had in your life. So for all of you that are having this question, in my opinion, sit with yourself and be courageous. It requires a level of courage to go into the unknown, and try to train yourself in your trust, self-trust. This is absolutely number one thing that I tell every experiencer. You need to practice and cultivate self-trust, because that's the core foundation of being able to handle unknowns. You're going to be going into the realm of entering new species, new information, new ways of thinking, and it's going to break your paradigm many times. So you have to be prepared for that by trying to come into the most neutral state possible, and to be kind of like water. You're kind of in a state of flow, without judgment during this journey. Okay. So, and for me, that was the most powerful thing that kept me afloat when I was going through pretty intense realizations. I mean, understanding the government. You see, I had rose-colored glasses when I see the government, when I see all these things. I didn't understand any of that. So I had to pretty quickly get an understanding of that. So just understand that you're emerging into a spiritual and physical evolution. Okay, so that this is what I would say, and I invite you to do it, with lots of love.
And where would you start that? Because I do understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
I want to make sure that.
Yeah. So in my humble opinion, meditation daily is absolutely essential, because you have to understand the majority of this contact is interdimensional, which means that we need to train our interdimensional vision and faculties. That's training intuition, literally going throughout your day and just like, what's the next thing I should do? What should I eat? Do I want water? Do I want this? Use your intuition for even those silly things to begin to train those wheels, so that you can gain trust with yourself. Okay. And then that will turn into your relationships, interactions, build trust, use discernment. That has to be strong foundation. And meditation is a must for anyone that is going into these realms, because you have to regulate your nervous system and try to be out of survival, out of fear as much as possible. And from there, it'll help you construct a strong foundation for interdimensional contact. And then from there, as you cultivate that, hypnotherapy would be a wonderful thing for you, because it's a very gentle way to enter into information, safe and gentle way for you to begin to practice remote viewing into your dimensions and understand who you are, what are you made of. And then take time to integrate that. Integration is a very important process in interdimensional contact. Okay, there must always be a time for you to understand fully, be very truthful with your emotions about how you feel, your fears, be very authentic and truthful about those fears that you have, and address them on the spot as you go. Okay. So, there's many places that you could reach out, like Rupert's group and, my group, many groups, and you can connect with us for support in that. I also quickly mention I have a YouTube channel with lots of important techniques for meditation that some of you might align with. You can check that out. It's free, and maybe some of those things can help. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Jean, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I think she covered it very well. I do help coordinate a group here in Kansas City. We're called Kansas City Experiencer Group, and we meet once a month, and we all discuss and help each other to try to get through these type of things. When you have an experience, it can be very scary, especially if you don't understand what's happening, what's going on. One of these groups might really be helpful to you. And I don't know, Geraldine, do you know how she'd go about in Colorado finding out? Would you just Google maybe?
Yeah, I'm a part of MUFON, which, sorry, not MUFON, Opus, which is a group that we help allocate support groups as well. If you want an in-person support group, we can try to find you a support group in your area. Please connect with me after the call, and I will put in my feelers in our group and see if we can find you a group there in person. However, all of these groups are virtual also. So if you feel comfortable doing that, you can join, any of these virtual groups. Mine is virtual.
Okay, thank you.
Connect with me. Yeah.
Also, MUFON does have a group that you can connect to for people that feel they've been, I don't know your particular thing, you didn't say whether you were abducted. So with MUFON, it's an abduction group. So I don't know if that would fit in quite with what you're talking about, because I don't know your situation. But I'd say you'd have to feel the courage within yourself that you could handle whatever it is you find out in your journey.
Wonderful. Thank you. And BB, I think I'm just going to add to that also. Undergoing regressional hypnosis, that's a means to acquiring information, acquiring knowledge, learning, growing, understanding, and that is a valid and important way to get information. Within Global CE5, within our network, we also have a system in place called the CE5 Wisdom System, and that is also a way to learn information, to learn about all of these different experiences, to gain experiences, to learn how to meditate, remote view, heal, telepathy, manipulation, all of these different experiences you can get by working through our system. And also we do include, I know it is subjective, but we also include a lot about gaining moral perspective on all of this. This is a free system that anybody here can just download a chart, and there's a sequence of activities and things that you can watch, sessions you can attend, and check off these activities as you work through. So if that's another resource that's open to you, people who work through this system very often feel like it changes their lives. It opens up their perspective. It tunes them into their abilities, and that's also a source of information that you could turn to if you wish.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, Nikki.
Hey, my
Hey.
question is for Jody.
You're a little bit quiet there, Nikki. Is it possible to move your closer to the mic? Thank you. Yes.
Hi, this is my cat. My question is for Geraldine. I recently had a regression. I haven't finished listening to my tape all the way, but I do know that something is important with my DNA. I am Rh negative. Is there a big importance on Rh negative with with, you know, family genetics and not necessarily abductions, but with maybe the new Earth or anything, you know, as far as the way that the you know, how the Earth's supposed to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Nikki. Geraldine.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, John Mack did a survey interviewing, a very important survey where they had, I think, over 1,000 contactees. And what they discovered from that group was that the majority of them were Rh negative. I have also done that, a similar survey in my group, and I find that a lot of my contactees are also Rh negative. So what I have seen both from that research and also interdimensionally in these fields, Rh negative, because of the nature of what it is and how it kind of emerged in our historical timeline, which there's no, they don't know where the Rh negative or how it mutated. They don't understand biologically how that happened in our human history. Okay. And there are small groups, pockets around this world, which where Rh negative is inherent. It's part of that part of the world. Like, for example, the Basque. I am also from that lineage. So what I tend to see is that Rh negative has, when you look at the structure of Rh negative as a blood type, but interdimensionally, it seems to have easier implosion rate, which means that the human has access to a higher spin rate due to your blood type, your vortex spin rate, which means that you have the ability of navigating interdimension or remembering, accessing the information easier. This is what I find. You have the ability to remember your contact experience more psychically.
Here's a problem though. I've had brain surgery and I can't remember anything.
That's okay, because memory isn't stored in the brain. It's actually a holographic system. And this is cultivated by the cultivation of your higher faculties. Okay. So right now, we feel that we can't remember anything, but we actually have to train. Many of us don't remember a lot of stuff until we begin to activate higher faculties. Then you will begin to remember things. It'll come in snippets. Okay. So,
But yeah, it seems like since I've had brain surgery, that's where things got activated.
sorry, I
That's
missed.
where my spirituality became activated. That's
Okay,
where
great.
it felt like everything just bam, everything clicked. My
Awesome.
veil got lifted. Everything just started to make sense. And it was so weird.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So many humans have certain trigger points in their life where they have an opportunity to access this information. So it looks like you're going through that now. And for you, it happened through this brain surgery. But my invitation is to practice these higher cultivation of your higher faculties so that you
And
can.
yeah, I'm trying to meditate, but it's so hard.
Yeah, it takes time, but the key is that when you begin to activate this vision, you will be able to recall things, because our memory is stored in the DNA, and that's a holographic system which merges into the dimensional plane. So 8-9 dimensional plane, you enter into the Akashic records. For example, the Akashic records or the DNA of the earth. This is actually where a lot of our ET contact is stored, which is why a lot of people access it through dream time more
My
easily.
dogs are about to bark. I apologize. Hold
No
on.
problem. Yeah. So just to let you know, those are some things. Yeah. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Nikki, and thank you to your
Thank you
dogs
so much.
also. Okay, now I'm going to move on to Jean.
I don't know a whole lot about the Rh negative, except in doing my MUFON reports, MUFON wants us to ask, it's not an absolute requirement, but when in every case that I work, I have to do an investigation. And during that time, I always talk to the person that saw whatever they've seen. And they want to know, though, are they Rh negative? What is their blood type is what they asked me to put in the report, because they have found that more people of Rh negative have experiences of seeing things, being abducted and whatever. So.
Fabulous.
Well, I've heard that the government has always wanted to keep track of people that are Rh negative for some odd reason, for a nefarious reason. And I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a conspiracy
I don't know.
theorist type thing or not.
I think they are just trying to gain information. They also want to know eye color and blood type, which
Yes, my eye color is my eye color changes.
Mm.
It's sometimes hazel, sometimes green, sometimes blue. You know, so it's yeah, I'm AB negative, Rh negative.
okay.
So
Thank
but
you.
thank you very much.
Jean Walker, I'm just going to ask one quick question tangentially. Approximately how many cases do you get given? How frequently do you get given cases through MUFON?
Totally varies. Last fall we had what we call a flap, which means a lot of sightings. And I must have been working, well, at one point I was working about 10 cases. Now that's highly unusual, but normally, again, it just varies to the sightings. We are getting more and more sightings though. And I know one man that I went out and did an investigation at his house. He called me and he told me, he said, I'm scared. He says, I am seeing so much, so many lights. He says, I think there's something going to happen. And I myself have had that feeling for, I'd say the last 5 years, very strongly, that something is really going to happen. And then the government comes out and now they're admitting that there are UFOs or UAPs, they call them. And so why we're seeing so many right now, we don't understand ourselves, but we get a lot of cases now. Kansas City is a very active place. Some places are more active than others. Colorado's active, California is active, Missouri is very active. We just get all kinds of reports here. So
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Just again, tangentially, I have the ability to sense when beings are present. And while you were talking there, Jean, there was some being here with me, but it felt a little bit different. It felt like it was on a slightly higher level, the feeling that I can get. So that's very interesting. We're rarely alone in these Zoom meetings. I'm going to ask Jean Callahan, you have a question for us?
There we go. I was trying to unmute. Yeah, first off, I want to say thank you, Rupert. I love all of these meetings and they're so helpful. And this question is for you and Geraldine and Jean. And I have been following the ancient astronaut theory for like 15 years. And so my question is, I mean, in my opinion, there's so much evidence of all of the like structures and like, ancient pyramids and things that align with like the Pleiades or Orion. As well as, evidence of like elongated skulls. And so I was wondering, specifically, I think first for Geraldine, like, what is your take on that as far as what you were talking about, the Matrix and the hybridization program? I mean, going back, in our linear sense of time, 12,000, 20,000 years. What is your take on that from that perspective?
Thank you. I'm going to pass that question to Geraldine.
Yes, absolutely. Not only do I, so not only do I recall many of my past lives because of the work that I do, But just looking at the timeline, not only of myself, but my clients through hypnotherapy and through lots of other work as well, to me, it's very, very evident that we are, interdimensional beings, which means that we are a cocktail of DNA, which we have evolved from the origin of Mesopotamia or many other origin in different timelines on this earth into the race that we are today, this human race. So I do see that, and I believe that this concept of, ancient astronauts is very, very, very true. I see it in many different ways. I've read the Book of Enoch, and to me, these concepts have been confirmed for me in very profound ways by visiting these locations around the world, researching, feeling, remote viewing in these dimensional planes. I strongly believe that we are a hybridized race, and that the matrix, in a sense, is constructed. And what I saw, to be more precise, is that we are made up of three main root genetic lineages, alien genetic lineages, you can say, or ET, interdimensional. And these lineages are both a combination of Earth beings, a center of the Earth core beings, a kind of reptilian type being, and a humanoid model, which is where we're modeled after. So mainly Pleiadian. So these Pleiadian, reptilian, Draco-reptilian lineages are all different frequencies that have emerged from what we know and what we hear as the archons, as Sophia Yaldabaoth creates these archons, then creates these life forms. All of the plethora of vibrational frequency organisms that are in this universe play a role. We have it encoded in our genetics, and I feel that that has played a role in what we are and the matrix that has been created as a result of that. The matrix is created based on the earth and the laws of physics, the laws of genetics and biology of this earth, and that creates this hologram which we participate in. But I do believe that we also exist simultaneously on other planets, in other dimensions. We are inhabiting at the same time. And this is how many of us remember these experiences and lives on these planets. So, it's very interesting, but the short answer is yes. I do agree with that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jean Walker, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I'll just say that I agree with the ancient aliens theory. There's a lot here on Earth that, like the pyramids and so many things. They've even say that there is a pyramid, a huge black one underground in Alaska that they think is powering up with so much power that the UFOs are able to get energy from this pyramid. So yeah, I believe it. I believe that they aliens have always been here. I think we're probably a form of them. I think they have interacted with the humans, and that's probably why we're as advanced as we are to this day. I think we're all part alien.
Thank you very much, Jean.
Thank you.
And I know Jean Callahan asked my opinion as well. Yeah, I also have my perspective on this. What I'm going to do, though, is because every Saturday you guys have an opportunity to listen to me, but we don't get these guests in very often. I'm not going to give my opinion on this now. What I will say is I'm a trained space scientist. My degree is physics with space science and technology, first class honors from Leicester University in England. I also did X-ray astrophysics research, so I'm a cosmologist also, and I teach. Some of these sessions that I teach are on space science. I have a three session kind of course on on space science that I work through, starting at the start of the universe and coming to the present day. And I look into how did the Earth form, how did evolution happen, and I also build into those presentations the role of aliens, other beings coming in from different places, and how DNA fits in with all of this. So I do have my own opinions on these things, and I will share these with Global CE5. But I feel like right now I'm going to focus on our remaining guests here. But thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, Fran Lister.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you ever so much for sharing what you've been sharing today. Hello. I guess my question is something around the fact about all of the guests have sort of alluded to alien contact, yes, but also interference, maybe. Oh, there we go. That's funny. Interference from military. So I think my question, if you can hear it through my screen's gone a bit funny.
Yes, we can.
Are they kind of piggybacking on some sort of knowledge that they got from the Greys that they may have made a pact with back in Eisenhower days, or where are they? It's kind of like they're spying or they're being nosy. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
yeah, the role of the military in these abductions. I think if I can maybe add to what your question, and I'm going to ask this for Geraldine and Jean. Would it be right to say that many of these experiences that people are having are just solely in themselves experiences with otherworldly beings, extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever we call them, and then when the military does get involved, kind of who's in charge, who's calling the shots, what is the nature of their relationship? Geraldine first.
Yeah, amazing question. Very complex question. There's a lot to unpack there because there's lots of things that we need to understand first to understand this. But I'm going to just give you an overview. For a lot of these more, the hybridization program and programs that are interested in human genetics from the military create scenarios that are like ET, and sometimes they will use drugs or some kind of technology to implant screen memories of experiences that they look like they're with ETs, but they're actually with the military. Okay, so and the purpose is for gaining that genetic data. They will extract that from the body. But also there are programs like, for example, fragmentation of humans through military, where they mobilize humans to carry out specific agendas, either for the government or things like that. Like, for example, women that were utilized in the war, for spies and things like this. This is an important element because they are utilizing the interdimensional abilities, so psychic abilities, for these programs, for these military programs, in the same way that the interest is in the genetics of the human. Because why? Because the human genetic is encoded. So let me put it this way: how much we develop our psychic abilities, we develop our faculties, it changes the construct of our DNA. Okay, it strengthens the core DNA, and it allows for mutations over time, generationally. So those that have more spiritual bloodlines, that have had these very, very dense spiritual history bloodlines, have a different kind of construct holographically. Okay, so these are the humans that are usually targeted by the government because they can be utilized for these kinds of interdimensional abilities. They can be fragmented and carried out these kinds of experiments. So that being said, the government as we know it is not just made up of humans and the military. The model for military was adopted by the Draco reptilian model, which is their model of existence. They live in this kind of militaristic way. That's their level of consciousness and the way that they do things. And there are certain specific agendas that they carry out. So a lot of these things are managed by the Draco reptilians. They they have participated in the cultivation of certain bloodlines through history on Earth. This is my opinion, and based on my research. And a lot of these families that are utilized for military are utilized for military specifically because it runs in the family genetically. Okay, so they're targeted for that purpose. Interdimensionally, in the same way that we're talking about this nefarious things, higher dimensional beings, they don't function that way. You interact with them when you raise your vibrational frequency to that level. You participate in hybridization program. The interest is still in your DNA and your genetics. The more spiritual genetics you have, the more you are able to utilize and access this information as well. So I think I'll end it there. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Jean Walker, any thoughts on the different categories, military involvement or just plain alien encounters?
Well, I think it's very difficult to tell sometimes, and MUFON's getting that way. It's very hard for me sometimes to tell what is going on. Is it paranormal? Is it something the government is doing? What are we seeing? What are we feeling? Geraldine talked about the screen memories, which they can do upon us. So you don't really know, is it the military or is it the aliens that's causing some of this? And myself, I feel like it's a mixture because I've had both contact with, the military and with aliens. So it becomes very difficult anymore, to tell for sure what something like that is. But I think, as Geraldine said, being more spiritually aware yourself, and the more you can learn about it yourself. You talked about, Fran, about Eisenhower and the conspiracy there, and even Eisenhower's daughter said it's true that he met with aliens, and that he actually gave them permission to use us as guinea pigs. And one of the things they keep saying is that a lot of the people that disappear all the time with we can't find anything out about them, are been abducted by either the military, who is working with the aliens for technology. We gain technology from them, and that's why we work with them. So, like I said, it's a fine line sometimes to try to tell for sure which it is, what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Can I
you.
please add one thing, Jean? I just want to add, Jean, that was awesome. I'm so glad you said that, because that's absolutely right. But also, I want to say that, keep in mind, if you believe in the ancient alien thing, we've been hybridized, or we've been participating in this for even longer than what Eisenhower claims to have done. So I just want to point that out, that just thinking about
Good
that.
point. Yes.
Yeah, I tend to wonder if maybe they disclose that information just to bring the awareness to humanity that this
Yeah.
is happening, because so many men and women have these pregnancies and things. So
Yeah, I think at this time that kind of brought things forward for us to find out about it. Yes,
yeah.
I think you're right. I agree.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a good point, Geraldine. There is evidence, I would say, proof of significant interactions and hybridization between humans and aliens, going back certainly hundreds of years, almost certainly thousands of years. And this is way before the industrial military complex or any kind of military was there. I know that some people, when they go into CE5, they are a bit worried about exposing themselves to possibly military contact. And I just want to point out the style of my groups, Global CE5. We very actively, our philosophy, we try as hard as we can not to enter any battles, not to attack, not to put down anybody at all. There's certainly lots of people in the world who I disagree with, who I don't like what they're doing, but aiming any kind of attack on anybody at all, including the military, the government, the industrial and military complex. We just don't do that. We don't lower our vibrational state. So that's the style of global CE5. And I think because of that, we have had far less contact with military, with the military on any level, with the government. As we've had far less than a lot of other people have. We've seen them. We've had events where we're all driving towards a certain mountain, like for example Mount Blanca, where we did a CE5 event there, and yeah, we had a line of military helicopters fly over in front of us, the CE5 site. And to us, that came across as, I mean, we can't know for sure, but not just an acknowledgement, not just letting us know, we know what you're doing, we know where you're going, but also letting the beings who live there in those mountains in the San Luis Valley, letting them also know we're aware of what's going on, we're watching. But this is an important subject. When we went camping with the tall white beings who live northwest of Las Vegas, after 2 or 3 years of remote viewing and psychically building up relationships with them, we got invited by them to go and camp in the desert out there. And we drove for 3 or 4 hours out into the most isolated regions of that location. We did not enter into the military area, of course, but just in the public area, which is this big, huge, it's the largest wildlife preserve outside of Alaska in the US. While we were setting ourselves up to do CE5, we were looking around, seeing if there's any interesting crystals, getting our lay of the land. And I was drawn to and picked up this. And this is a very powerful military, this is a casing. Some people have told me that this probably was shot from a helicopter at some stage. And it highlights to me the importance of what we're doing, bringing love and light into our relationships with them. Because some of these beings, their only formalized relationships, their main formalized relationships with humans are through military means, through people with guns. And that's not who we are. So that's one of the reasons why we feel that what we're doing is so important. I'm going to ask, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, Camilla, if you have a question.
Hello, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, my question is just general. And I've always heard that through dreaming is the best way, but what do we say for people like me who I feel like I go to sleep and I never dream? But yet I feel like there'll be nights where I'll look at my clock and I'll feel like, God, I've been sleeping all night, like a long night, but then no dreaming. So that was just a question.
Do you feel like you may have been having experiences in the night? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, like I do feel like I've had experiences. I feel like there's something there, but then I also feel like my dreams get blocked out and I'm unable to remember them and recall them. And I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
how do you access, how do you, when you're trying to figure all this out and go through that, that's all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to let both Geraldine and Jean answer this question. Then I'm going to take one more question because we've been going for 2.5 hours, and that's probably long enough. So I'm going to ask Camille and then Alison, and then we'll bring this session to a close. Geraldine, would you like to answer that question first?
Absolutely. So yeah, many people that don't remember their dreams, there is a way to to train ourselves in our level of awareness, just the way that we practice presence and awareness in the waking state. This is something that we want to practice in dream state by training lucid dreaming. So the more that you become conscious in waking state, you're going to begin to remember your dreams a little bit more. You'll be aware of that. Also, it really has to do with your levels of your brain waves. You know, are you going into a deep REM sleep, or is your sleep very light? Take a look at that and kind of prepare your room. You know, there are many different ways that you can use scientifically to help yourself go into a deeper sleep at night that is uninterrupted. Make sure you're not eating, you know, make sure your room is really dark, all of these things. Also, make sure that you're sleeping between the hours of 10 and 12, because the body needs to regenerate. When we sleep very late, it's hard. The body has to like quickly regenerate the body, and it's just a lot of strain on the body. So there isn't always a lot of time for the body to have energy to remember those dreams. So there's many things. Maintaining really healthy lifestyle is very important. And emotionally, this is the next one, is to train your emotions, become aware of your emotions. Why? Because emotions are the language of vibrational frequency, and they also help us understand and translate dreams, dream memories, because they can be very abstract. They can be very through the senses, the higher senses in dream time. So these are some things that I would advise, but keeping that awareness during waking state will bleed into the dream state in order for you to begin to recall and remember. There's lots of techniques. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but you can also train yourself in waking up midnight around 3, 4 in the morning, go to the restroom, take a drink of water, and then go back to sleep. And you will be able to remember the dreams in that second leg of dream state. So you will begin to kind of exercise this memory. Okay, just some techniques. Yeah, I'll hand it over to Jean.
Thank you.
I would say sometimes you don't want to remember things because they're frightening to you or you don't understand it. And we mentally push those things back. At least I know I have. So I don't know if that could be going on with you or not. If you do have a dream, they say if you keep paper and a pen next to your bed, if you wake up, write down what you were thinking of when you woke up. And sometimes that will help jar your memory, like the next day of maybe the dream that you did have. I have had many things come to me in dreams. Yet when I was writing my book, it was really strange. There were things that, like one reoccurring dream, I couldn't remember. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. But I'd had this dream over and over throughout my life. And I think anytime you're having a repetitive dream, then it means something. But in writing my book, when I was writing things down, it came to me what had actually had happened and why I was having that dream. And after I wrote it down, put it in my book. And after I did that, I don't have that dream anymore, because my mind had actually figured out what was going on with me. But that was during the day, and it was writing. So if you could do journaling, might also help.
Yeah. Thank you. And when you do things like write that down, you do reach out spiritually, psychically. There is a spiritual probing, remote viewing, if you like, back in time. You are keying into that moment. And so there is more coming in than just what is retained inside your head. Okay, thank you. I am going to ask, I apologize I know there's more hands gone up now, but I'm just going to ask one more question here from Alison, and then I'm going to wind the meeting up and just let people know that please come to other sessions and ask any other questions at other sessions. Alison.
Thanks for letting me slip in there, Rupert. This question is maybe more for Geraldine, but Jean, you can certainly address it as well. It's a little bit of a two-part question. I believe very early on in this session, Geraldine, you mentioned that you, when you were going through your experiences of the pregnancies, that, you know, you had your hybrid children, that there were other health issues that you were having around that time as well. So you were a little bit confused about, is it this, is it that? And I apologize if you've addressed that. I've been really distracted today for whatever reason. I don't know if the energy is just weird or off today, but if you could talk a little bit more about what some of your other health concerns were around those same times. And then I guess second part of the question is, whenever I've had physical experiences, like physical beings with me, I usually end up waking up very groggy and like heavy and headaches, and it's just like it takes a couple days to get out of like a fog. But when I do have more interdimensional, it's like it's very light, it's very I don't have any effects on my energy when I wake up or the next day. So I was just wondering if there was something to that on days when I wake up and it's like, whoa, like what is going on today? Is that possibly an indication that, okay, I had a physical experience that I just don't recall that one?
Absolutely. So this has to do with how you're holding your space vibrationally, because we have to remember, when we have a being in our presence, what's happening is that we're creating like a wormhole where we are basically interdimensionally entering another dimension. We are in another dimensional space. They're coming into ours, we're coming into theirs. So this does have physical side effects. And so a lot of people will end up feeling, groggy or heavy. But the reason why we feel heavy is because we are not processing, we're not raising our vibrational frequency. There's a disconnect between the vibrational frequencies that aren't integrating in the body. So this is why I always tell people it's very important for you to learn how to train to spin your vortex, because our body is like a vortex, our construct of our multidimensional body. The faster that we spin, the higher vibration we are. The more neutral that you are, less emotional impact that you put on your body as a result of these experiences, it'll be easier. The side effect won't be so hard. You won't get that hangover, that interdimensional hangover, as I call it, because you need to train. This is why it's so important, everyone, because we are going into, as we evolve collectively, into a higher vibration for everyone. So we need to kind of match this new vibrational frequency that we're moving. Okay, so the next part of your question, which is really interesting about the differences in the side effects and what happened, the illnesses. So, for example, at the age of 15, what felt like a stomach flu, because I was 15, I was a virgin. I didn't understand what pregnancy would be. None of my family members thought for a moment that I would be pregnant. There was no sexual abuse or anything like that. But it was a stomach flu for like a week, and it was strange. It was like fever, it was like nausea, it was all of this really weird. My uncle was a doctor, so he did check up on me. He checked everything. Everything was fine according to him. They didn't think to do a pregnancy test. But after that week, exactly 1 week, I had a dream where a light came to me, and the next day I had a miscarriage, which I thought was just a regular cycle. Okay. But it was different, and us women understand how that is different. So there was no fetus or anything left behind. It would have been too early for any kind of large fetus, because what happened is that 2 weeks before that, I had a missing time experience, that I was walking down the street and everything turned black and I ended up going into a different dimension. I had missing time for 4 or 5 hours. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody understood like how I could be missing for such a long time. And I just found myself waking up in my bed. But everyone the next day would be like, where were you? Like, we didn't see you. We didn't see you come home. We didn't see you. Like, you didn't let us know. Did you have dinner? Like, where were you? What happened to you? And I woke up at like 3 a.m. in my bed, and I felt aroused sexually for the first time in my life. I didn't understand what sexual arousal was. I didn't know what that felt like. And so as a result of that experience, then I became ill. And then 2 weeks after, I had that sickness, and then it just appeared after the white light came in. So very specific. Similar, at the age of 24, all of a sudden began having fainting spells when I was at the store doing something. I went to the doctor, tried to understand what was happening. The doctor did all kinds of tests, couldn't find anything. Finally, one specialist said it looks like some kind of foreign amoeba, which we can't really identify. We don't know what kind of amoeba it is, but it's causing amoeba-like reactions in your body. Essentially, I was becoming extremely dehydrated, blood levels, pressure levels, all going crazy. The doctor said I have 2 months to live. We don't know what it is. I became allergic after the experience at 15. I became allergic to antibiotics and all kinds of medication. I couldn't take birth control. I couldn't take not even an aspirin, that my body would have a reaction. And this is also very typical for a lot of contactees. They have very high sensitivity to chemicals. So I've never taken drugs, hallucinogenics, anything like that. And so what happened is that after forcing me to take antibiotics, which I was allergic to, having adverse reactions, again, I had the blue light, a white light come into the room one night after weeks of suffering in and out of the ER, and then gone, everything completely gone from one day to the next. Went to the doctor the next day. The doctor says, I have no idea. I don't know where the amoeba went. I don't know what happened, but you're fine. And they were just like, great, because we thought we were going to lose you, so no more questions were asked. So those are the kind of very impactful things that happened in my life. At the time, I didn't understand the connection between them, but they were very physical and visual. And so the pregnancies that I had later, other pregnancies when I was not partnered, were not as severe. They didn't have any kind of physical illness or anything. It was just pregnancy, very strong cycle situations, very strong, what is it called? I didn't come to the point of having a DNC or any of that. But the side effects were pretty severe hormonally, so that I will say. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. Jean, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I too suffered a lot of illnesses during the time that I was pregnant. I got married at 16, so I was very, very young. And I don't know, it was probably about 19 or 20 when I first got pregnant. And with the first pregnancy, I passed afterbirth, but no fetus. And I don't know what happened to it. And then the next two pregnancies, with every pregnancy I had though, I had a what they called the rabbit test back then, because I'm old. This was way back, and they didn't have sonograms and things like that. But I had pregnancy tests, and they were positive for each one. The two after that, I just had miscarriages, but no fetus was ever found. Just a lot of bleeding. And then the last one, I made it to almost 4 months. The doctor, I went for a regular physical, and the doctor said, Jean, the baby's not growing anymore. He said, I don't think it's alive. And I was just devastated. But my stomach was starting to come out. And he said, I don't want to do a DNC on you right now because your uterus is too large. So I'm going to send you home for 2 weeks, see if your uterus doesn't go down, and then we'll put you in the hospital and do a DNC. So I went back in 2 weeks, and he said, there's nothing there. Now, I'd had several pregnancy tests, all kinds. He had examined me and said I was pregnant. And I remember looking at him saying, what do you mean there's nothing there? How could that be? And I don't think he knew how to answer me. So his answer was, well, nature has a way of taking care of these things. That was his answer. It was just gone. I mean, it was weird. But during the ages of, I was about 23 when that happened. So between 19 and 23, actually it started some before that. I always was very low energy. I was always anemic. I had lots of female problems. I had bladder infections all the time, kidney stones. I became allergic to everything, like Geraldine's saying. I became allergic to all kinds of medicines. I would break out if I used certain soaps. I was just so sensitive to everything. So her and I had a lot of similarities there, and all that happened about the same time during those pregnancies. So I don't know why exactly, but there was something going on. And I'm sorry, but what was the other part of your question?
Just the feeling of heaviness or versus lightness, depending on the type of contact.
Yeah, and I still, when I say they're still abducting me, in the last 10 years, when I would wake up, I'd be so tired, and then I'd find wounds on me or something, and I just don't think I got enough rest. I think I was exhausted all the time because they were abducting me so much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jean. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give some final remarks here before we finish this meeting.
Celia.
And I've just muted everybody there. Somebody sounds very happy that the meeting is ending. This is a big subject. There's so much to learn. I feel that some of you here I could talk to for days, gaining more and more knowledge and understanding, and still not have even a smallest fraction of a picture of the big picture. I encourage people to keep looking at this subject with an open mind, but also critical thinking. And please do go ahead if any of you want to. I've specifically started a new group yesterday. I opened a new Facebook group yesterday, Alien Abductions CE4. I'm happy to send people a link to that if you would like to join that group. And it's really for people, both for people to learn about this subject, but also for people who feel like they may be going through some of these things. As Jean mentioned before, I've done conventions with her. At one recent convention, a young lady came to my booth, saw a picture behind me of a being that one of our members had drawn. She just burst into tears. What is that? What is that? They come to me. Why are they coming to me? What are they doing? And there are people out there who I would like to support, give help to, and but there's positive experiences, then there's negative experiences. All of these experiences in a safe environment. If you would like to participate in this new group, it's Alien Abductions CE4. There's only one member in it at the moment, me. But if all of you, any of you want to join that, please go ahead. I would like to thank our guests so much for being here today. They're giving up their free time to be here to help spread love and light and understanding and knowledge. Raphael had to leave us. I'm going to say a big thank you to Raphael. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy, and you will see him at some of our other meetings as well. Do look out for our Skinwalker Ranch CE5 very short video because he did the music to that, and when that gets finished, that'll be a very interesting video, I hope. I'd like to thank Jean Walker. Thank you so much, Jean, for being here, all of your experience. And do you want to hold up your book again and let us know what is the name of your book? There you go. Family Secrets. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions about reporting experiences to MUFON, you can reach out to Jean. Geraldine, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and your experiences. And I am going to recommend that people at least check out the documentary that Geraldine features in, Extraordinary: The Seeding. Where can people watch that, Geraldine?
Excuse me. Thank you, first of all, for having me. It's been such a pleasure and an honor. Jean, I bought your book. Can't wait to read it. And I would love to connect with you. I just bought it right now. And you can watch Extraordinary Deceding. I believe it's everywhere. I think now it's on Amazon. I think it's on YouTube, lots of places. You might also be interested in seeing some of the episodes I did for Travel Channel for UFO Witness. Very interesting. They go into some of the phenomena there. Yeah, and I just want to say that Extraordinary Deceding has a little bit of a darker tone to it, and I think that they do these things in order to get people's attention. I don't agree with it. I don't believe that I'm a victim of anything, so I just want to make sure I put that out there to understand that we are the sole empowerment of our experiences. So thank you, Rupert.
Thank you. That's a good point. So thank you both, Jean and Geraldine. Jean, you're raising your finger. Do you want to have a parting comment also? You're muted right now. Do you want to?
There. Okay, Geraldine, I saw your show on UFO Witness. And then they came out and they filmed me about 2 years later, and I was on an episode called Nordics and Cube. But I did see your episode, so I was familiar with you and what you'd been through. It was very enlightening. It was
Wow. You know what, Jean? Now I understand where I've seen you. Right. I saw you on the episode. It was phenomenal. Good. I hope to connect with you, Jean.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
That's wonderful. Thank you too so much. I'm just going to let people know. First of all, thank you so much for staying this long. We're nearly at 3 hours. You guys have great stamina. Thank you for being here and for learning. Just very quickly, I have a couple of tours that are coming up. There's a spring tour starting next weekend. We go through Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky. We're going to West Virginia, to Point Pleasant, to the place where the Mothman experiences happened. We're continuing on to Maryland, to New Jersey, to New York. We're holding a CE5 event in Central Park. That should be an interesting one. And then back through Pennsylvania. In the summer, we're going to be going to Aurora, Texas, where there was an alien buried in a cemetery there. We've done events there. It's astonishing. Roswell, New Mexico. We're going to Snowflake, where Travis Walton was taken. We're going to all of the main places. We're camping with the Tall Whites again. If anybody's interested in any of that, I'm hosting an online event tomorrow morning, just as an informational event about how to participate in those tours. Next weekend, we are doing a global simultaneous outdoors, indoors CE5. We do those on the first Saturday of every month, if anybody's interested in participating in that. If anybody's interested in our CE5 wisdom system or in any of the websites that you've heard us talk about today, just send me a private message and I'll send you some links later on today after I've eaten something and had a nap. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. You're so wonderful. I look forward to seeing you all again some stage. Have a beautiful weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.